the recording, sorry ladies, and all, I don't, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all 6 definitions are on the test, all 6. Did you just raise your hand?
No. You tried to throw something at me.
Right. It's a sign of affection, probably, right? So, number 2 for Meredith says this. Order the 3 constituent parts of the atom in terms of their size from smallest to largest. So it's the smallest piece of an atom.
Mrs. Mathias.
Electron, proton, and neutron.
Okay, so the smallest piece of the atom is the electron, then the proton, the neutron is the largest. And you'll see why next week. Jesse, number 3 says, what force keeps protons and neutrons in the nucleus?
Nuclear force.
Which, strong or weak?
No.
Guess. Oh no, it's a strong nuclear force. So just think, what's in the nucleus? All those protons. What charge do protons have, Jesse?
Electrons.
Protons, what charge do they have? What charge do protons have? Positive or negative charge? Positive.
Mrs. Mathias, we did not read 3 or 4.
It was weird. So they didn't explain that part until later on.
Yeah,
when we were doing it, no one understood it because it hadn't been explained yet in the book.
Aha.
So number 3
Okay.
and number 4, we haven't.
Okay, so let me tell you a story.
Oh, actually, I answered those.
Good for it. Let Joshua tell you a story.
Joshua, story time.
So,
what am I telling?
So tell us about the strong nuclear force.
Oh, I didn't read that. I'm talking about question 4. I answered question 4.
Okay. So I'll tell you a quick story about 3, and then Joshua can tell you about 4. So protons are all positively charged, right? And do positive charges attract each other or repel each other?
Repel each other.
So how can they all be packed into that nucleus together if they repel each other? Exactly, the strong nuclear force. So how does the strong nuclear force work? Yeah.
It keeps the protons in the nucleus.
By
Right.
exchanging the little particles. I
Exchanging
don't know
little
what they're
particles.
This
So does anyone know what the little particles are called?
Yes.
look it up.
No, I don't.
Someone does, but Mac.
Photons?
Kind of, no, they're not. But photon exchange is pions. So photon exchange governs the electromagnetic force and because there's a particle exchange. So electricity and magnetism are governed because of the exchange of photons. The strong nuclear force is governed by the exchange of pions. So the particles inside the nucleus are doing this tiny little particle exchange of something with practically no mass, and they have to be super close together to be able to exchange the particles, so that's what holds them together. And you, I suppose, will be reading about that this week.
It was weird. I was looking ahead and then I found where they were talking about it. So
That is
it's
weird.
interesting that they asked those questions.
I just didn't answer them.
Yeah, and that's fine. If you come up to something that I've assigned that you didn't have in your reading at all, skip it and don't worry too much. And Joshua, you told me you were going to tell us a story about the force that keeps electrons orbiting around the nucleus.
Well, it actually says that since the electrons have a negative charge and that the protons have a positive charge, it keeps them, they attract with each other, so it keeps them orbiting.
Right, and do you know which of the 4 or 3-ish forces that would be?
Electroweak force.
Electroweak force. So,
It says it.
yeah. So there's an attraction between the positive protons and the negative electrons, and that attractive force is governed by the electroweak force. Jenna, what is mostly an atom made up of?
Mostly empty space.
Mostly empty space. And let's see, Elise. An atom has an atomic number of 34. How many protons does it have? 34. And how many electrons does it have? 34. And what's its symbol? Se. And that's selenium, which is a trace nutrient that everyone needs to eat a little bit of occasionally. Selenium. Ava, list the number of protons, electrons, and neutrons for neon 20.
10 protons, 10 electrons, and 10 neutrons.
Perfect. So, how did you know it had 10 protons? Well, tell us, Patrick.
I was just gonna make the joke.
Oh. So, if you look at your periodic table and it told you it's neon, then you see that because neon has the atomic number of 10, that means it has 10 protons. If it's neon 20 and it has 10 protons in the nucleus, how many other things does it have in the nucleus?
They're
10.
calling it early. It goes out in
A little
actually
early.
5 minutes.
So neon 20 has 10 protons, but 20 total things in the nucleus, so it has to have 10 neutrons also. And to be an element that's not an ion, it has to have 10 electrons. So you can do the other 3 in that number 7. Finish the study guide
For module 13?
for module 13. Finish the study guide and the summary. Well, good. Then
I've done
study.
some of the quarters last week, and then I, like, oh no, I didn't do it, and then I
At the beginning of the year,